right, hey everyone! It is Saturday night. It's time to talk anime. Let's talk anime and manga and all the other things as we take our sips of our beverages of choice. John cannot be with us tonight. He is otherwise engaged. Be back with us next week. But we got Steve here joining us
Hello,
to chat
hello.
about stuff. Hey, Ginger. Hey, Matt. Good to see y'all. Ginger staying up late, I do believe, if I have my...
Oh,
Or no,
wow.
she's up
Yeah.
early, if I recall correctly, because it's... Anyway, yeah. Hi. Good to see you. We're going to talk Patlabor. Oh, Ginger, send me your address, because um, there's something key we have to talk about. But yeah. Oh, 9 a.m. Okay, cool. I can never get the whole thing with... I always get Pacific time confused, whether it's like way ahead or way behind or whatever. It's always crazy. But yeah, so we're going to talk about various stuff. How's your week been?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Very, very busy. Who knew that Easter was a drinker's holiday?
Hmm. Well, I
My
guess,
story.
Jesus turned water into wine,
I well,
right? And so it's all
that's
that, right?
saying you're gonna have to be stuck with your family, and you're just gonna be like, oh.
Yeah.
But no, it's been very, very, very busy, which is a good thing. Always a good thing. And just kind of enjoying the fact that the weather is finally changing, and just happy with that. And my only hiccup this week was that I was telling you earlier I had to redo the video for my channel
Yeah.
because sometimes you play back what you thought was like a really good idea and you go oh no, oh no, that's a dumpster fire. No, we're deleting that right now.
Yep.
I had to redo a video.
It happens. Yeah. It's always frustrating.
How
Yeah.
about you?
It's been pretty good. Work's been, chugging along. Nothing really to remark on there, which is definitely nice. Like you say, it's been, I think we had a couple of weeks where it was like cloudy or rainy most of the time, and I feel like the past like 4 or 5 days it's been nice and bright and sunny and a few
Yeah,
clouds here and there. And even if it's chilly, it just feels like good. It's
yeah,
starting
yeah.
to turn. That's been nice. Also been I've been reading some more manga. So
Mm,
read another volume of Granny Girl Hinata-chan.
mm,
So that's been a lot of fun. It is definitely taking a slightly, I wouldn't say a dark turn, but it is
okay.
dealing with the fact that So the premise is 88-year-old grandma reincarnated as a little girl, and she it's very Buddhist. So like if she resolves her feelings about her past life, she's gonna forget it,
Right.
and she is going to just become this new little girl and just have her new life. And so it's starting to kind of deal with that now. She's like, oh, like I may not be me anymore. Like, do I want to do that? So it's, I guess, melancholy, tinges of melancholy in it. Still very
Hmm.
cute, fun little girl adventure kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I've also been reading A Man and His Cat, which apparently is one of the big hit manga of the past couple of years. A middle-aged man goes to a pet
Hmm.
store and adopts the ugliest cat they have. And just he wants a cat, and he just loves that cat, and the cat loves him, and just is very grateful for being rescued, if you will. Not rescued; it's a normal pet shop, but he's been there for like a year. No one wanted him, and so it is very,
Oh,
very heartwarming. They just love each other to death. Kind of like the other one, there are little tinges of melancholy, like he lives alone. He didn't used to, so that kind of stuff going
okay.
on. But 98% of it is just him getting used to the cat getting used to him. All the stuff with you know food and litter boxes and getting all those set up and all the new routines and so forth and so on. What's also nice is that it is very much just about them, and then as the volume goes on, you get little more little hints about like his job and things like that and so forth. But they don't kind of like info dump. Okay, now here is his life.
Right.
It's just these little bits are revealed as time goes on. So because it's not the focus.
Nice.
So yeah, it's very heartwarming. Very just oh.
Yeah. So sometimes you need that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need those kinds of stories,
Definitely.
especially when you read or come across things like classics like Higurashi and
Elfin
you
Lead.
where you're just kind of like going, oh god, oh, just please something furry and nice, please.
Exactly. Yeah. In the news today, we're going to talk about how there's more Wonder Egg priority. I'm like, I don't know if I want more Wonder Egg priority. Jeez.
So I hadn't even watched since the first episode.
Yeah.
Because I'm scared. I'm scared to get it because I know I'll enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'll like it because I really liked the first episode. But just as I said to you guys, as I saw before you, for you and John, it's you're just like, oh god.
Yeah.
And there's more.
Exactly.
And there's more. And so I'm going to be like, it's probably one of those things where you're like at the end of it and you're just like emotionally drained and you're just like, going, oh,
yeah.
Why do I do this to myself?
Mm-hmm. Ginger, so you finish it and you're confused. I must admit, I'm not surprised. Yeah, it does feel like it's going to be. So here's my question. Is it like Revolutionary Girl Utena confused? Or is it just like, they left you in a quandary, kind of confused? That's the question for me. Evangelion confused, or what?
Are you just confused at the end of it, or are you just angry at the end of it?
Speaking of which, I saw a headline today. EVA 3.0 plus 1.0 gives us a happy Evangelion ending.
Oh, why even bother?
I know exactly. Just like why? Okay, yeah. Okay. Interesting. Well, now I'm even more intrigued about Wonder Egg priority. And now that here's the thing. Now we've got the last episode kind of. See, now I can go back into it because I'm like, okay, I know there's an ending. I know there's something to go to. I'm not going to be on tenterhooks halfway through the season. So let's talk about something else we've been watching this week. We're going to talk about Patlabor, the original OVA. I do not actually have the video for this, unfortunately. But we'll have to talk through it because this is going to be fun. So our experiences with Patlabor. I tried watching. Let's rewind a little bit more. Patlabor, I would say one of the sort of big, say, half dozen mecha franchises. Up there with Gundam and Macross and the others. A lot of different series. And this is the original OVA, which basically kicked it all off from 1988 to 89. And it did get released over here in America in the 90s by, I think, Central Park Media.
Yep.
There's a blast from the past.
There's a blast, yeah.
Gosh. So they, that was the thing. And so I watched it more or less when it first was released over here in America. And tried the first episode, and I just couldn't get it. It was just the pacing was weird, introduction of the characters was weird, and so I didn't hate it, but I was like, I'll come back to this later, maybe. Fast forward, decades. And
Little time passed.
Ended up watching the two movies, or the three movies, and then came into it again this time and enjoyed it a lot more. Like it definitely worked once I kind of got into it and got through it. So that's kind of where I am with Patlabor. What's your history with Patlabor?
I love. No, I really.
It's right behind you. Yep.
Yeah, right there. So I watched it when it first came over. Watched it on cable. I think I had a VHS copy of the first two episodes. I think and that was about it. But I really enjoyed it. What I saw on television, and then years passed. Otakon, and they played. It was in one of the panel rooms where they show here's the old anime, and I'm like, okay, here we go. And so when they showed the first 4 episodes again, and I was just like, oh my god, now I remember why I love this so much. And so I really enjoyed it, and we were kind of talking before we came on. I tried watching it with the subtitles and I didn't really like it. I watched it with the dubs and the English dubs, and I really loved it. And and I don't want to start a dub sub war, but that's just my personal opinion. But I like the voice actors for the most part. I know not everybody does. Not everybody does. Yeah. But anyway, so I watched it at Otakon. Then went on a spree of like, what? Okay, I want to get the OVA. Got the OVA. Watched the movies. Was disappointed with the third movie. Then I watched the television series, and I actually spent. It took me 3 Otakons to get the whole the whole set, right? Mm-hmm. And I kept going to the one guy who's kept like, every year he'd like release a little bit at the dealer's table, just okay, Steve, you bought the first 10, now here's another 10, but I'm gonna hold off on the others because I got you hooked now. And so I eventually watched the whole television series. So I just really loved it, and it's a go-to for me. So every now and again when I'm just like don't know what to watch, throw it on. Yeah, so it's always fun.
So Captain Laser Eyes asked, and I think we had somebody else ask as well. Matt was asking, where do you start with Patlabor? Which is a great question because you've got OVAs, you've got TV series, you've got movies.
It's kind of like Ghost in the Shell in that each one is. Actually, it's like Tenchi. Each kind of thing is its own universe. So the OVA is the original OVA is basically the first one. So if you watch that one, you kind of get the ground. You basically get the idea of the series.
Okay.
Now, what's interesting is the OVA eventually continues with episode 8 and continues on after that. But then the television series is different. The animation is also a lot different. And it's more expanded, and you have a lot more characters, and story arcs are longer and more grounded. It's not like the OVA where things kind of seem choppy a little bit. Yeah. And the movies are really their own thing too. They really are.
Yep.
As basically the first 2 out of the 3. Well, no, actually, all 3 movies are take their cues from the OVA, but they're not of the OVA universe. So
gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, there's the.
So the short answer for that long answer was start with the OVA.
Go the OVAs. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Good question. What's the story with the TV OVA where the TV series got 2 extensions due to popularity? Watching the OVA now, and it feels just like more TV episodes. So that's, I wouldn't say it's a common thing, but it is a thing that happens. If something is sufficiently popular, but you don't have the financing or the budget to do a movie, an OVA is kind of the easiest way to go.
Right.
Because you can just make that and release it and sell it straight to video, and fans can buy it. And unfortunately, time slots are tricky on television.
Yeah. And that's a very true statement of using an OVA in lieu of making a movie because you don't have the budget. Because the movies, like for example, episodes, was it 5 and 6 of the OVA, which is, the taking over of Tokyo, is basically movie number 2.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
Gotcha. Yeah.
By the way, folks, don't be jealous that I have shake.
Oh gosh, too late. But yeah, and to be clear, I don't know exactly why, but I'm assuming it's just because of that. Very frequently, TV slots are scheduled out pretty far in advance. So if it's popular but you don't have the time, you're kind of stuck. Well, I guess that's more true these days. Back in the 70s and 80s, it might have been different, but.
Well, wasn't Headgear kind of on a roll in the late 80s, early 90s?
Headgear?
That's the guys that made.
Oh, right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah. So let's talk about this OVA as kind of approach. So this was the first Patlabor, which to your point was created by this sort of creative team, Headgear. and really built to be this idea. And what I find so interesting about Patlabor is that it is kind of a commentary on modern Japanese society at the time, where it's, you have this idea of widespread construction robots, giant robots, and which then leads to crime, which then leads to police action. And so, but it is very much about like these huge construction projects you saw in Japan in the 80s, on a scale you really didn't see before, because there's a lot going on in the 60s with reconstruction and so forth. We didn't have like the high technology of the 80s or the money of the 80s, which was
right
everywhere. So Patlabor, unlike a lot of other anime, really feels like it's set in like 1988. Even though obviously it's set in like a future, but it feels so real in a weird way. And I think a lot of that comes back to Goto. You have this guy who is just this. He feels so much like the career bureaucrat. Seen it all, been there, done it, totally. Nothing surprises him anymore. We've all worked with that guy.
Yeah.
Been there forever. Know the score. And it's something we don't see in anime a lot. It's just these very workaday people, I guess.
Yeah, the Goto is again one of my favorite characters in anime. They don't even make him look unique, really.
Yeah, it's true.
Like his eyes are half lidded, and like you were saying, he's seen it all. He's always like, launch the assault. Yeah, we know what's going to happen. Yeah. Go ahead. Keep the property damage to a minimum, please.
I love in episode 7. This isn't a spoiler. He says, "Yeah, they're probably going to do X, Y, Z," and then things happen, and they do the thing that he doesn't expect them to do, and he goes, "Oh, you're going to do that? Okay.
Oh,
you're really going to do that? Wow.
No, all right." I just love the fact that in the OVA, it's in the promising future of 1999, and I'm just like thinking to myself, going, "Oh, I wish we had mecha in 1999.
Yeah.
That would have been really nice. That would have been really nice." But I think that one of the things about this, but the other part of what I really like about Patlabor is that the technology is accessible.
Mm-hmm.
This is not. We're not talking about. The next proto Gundam,
right.
We're not talking about a Gundam that can do this, that, and the other thing with, and you have to be Charles Sobel to be able to pilot, or as it's mentioned in Patlabor, an autistic kid piloting a mecha. It's a functional thing. It's like, and when they talk about it, it's like there's a realism in how they're talking about, like when they talk about the boot up disc, and they talk about how things are attached, and you look at the actual mecha itself, and it looks like when they talk about the original Patlabors that they were using, they were former construction laborers, and you take one look at them and you're just like, well, yeah, that looks like a construction labor. Yeah. That looks like it's just built and pick up steel girders. That's it.
I love one of the things that's so distinctive about Patlabor is how you can often see the head of the pilot. And that idea that you just kind of pop open the chest a little bit, and so the person can see around, because you'd want to be able to do that. This isn't a space. You're just oh, what's that guy doing? So you have that visibility, and it kind of humanizes the mecha in that way.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. Like I remember again, episode 7. Some random guy basically hops in this military mecha, and he goes, "Oh, it's like the one I drive for work," and you're like. Oh, right. Like there's just a thing that it's like heavy machinery,
it's
drive a tractor.
If you're trained on this, you can probably figure out that. And it's just, and the other part I like about the whole mechanism of the series is, and the accessibility of it, is that it also shows the limitations. In episode 2, I think it's episode 2, Noah is in Alphonse. Alphonse is the name of her Patlabor. And she stops, and she has to stop because there's a bridge in her way.
Yeah. That's right.
She can't get over it. She can't go under it. She actually has to stop. Now the solution is ridiculous and it's fun, but it's I don't want to spoil it for anybody,
No,
but it's
no.
just fun. Especially the reaction. You just like of the pilot. You're just like, wait, he's into this? What? Oh, okay. But there's like a realism of just like this isn't going to work because I'm in this giant machine that can't really articulate.
Right. Yeah. It
And
can't
that's the other part.
jump,
Whereas,
really.
right, yeah, it can't jump. It's not like the Gundams where they can, pressing the buttons and they can find, move, articulate, and stuff like that. It's just assumed that you come across something that you would normally, that you as a person wouldn't be able to go over. This isn't going to go over it either.
Yeah, exactly. Remember, somebody said that a Gundam is a somewhat slow-moving man in samurai armor.
Yeah.
Like that's how they move, right? And that's really how the animators think of them, not as machines, really. And again, it's just the trope, the approach you make. Macross is even further beyond. They're just
Right.
Just do whatever. It's part of the fun of Macross. But yeah, no, absolutely. The laborers feel like these engineered for a purpose. They're here to do this thing, but you can't really go beyond that. Yeah, like driving a car, or again, like a Caterpillar tractor or something.
Right.
But yeah, and then you get and this is one of the reasons why I found the OVA a little hard for me to get into initially, is because the stories are kind of mundane to begin with. It is just, I guess, these cops doing this thing, and I think Mamoru Oshii's directing in this is rather uneven. Just in the sense that like the characters are thrown together, you don't really know who they are, you're not given any explanation of their backgrounds or setting. And I don't expect that for everybody, but there's just a lot of material in there that I just felt like I didn't have enough context to understand why the characters were taking their actions. And that was a little frustrating to me. And just tonally, it's not all over the place, but it definitely has a variety of feels to it, which I liked a lot. But it is very late '80s in that way.
Yeah. So the OVA is very episodic. It's not like any other OVA where you have the long arcing story that's supposed to take you from the beginning, the middle, and the end, and with maybe a couple other character stories inside of it. Cowboy Bebop, one of the best things about it is that it goes, it's a bunch of stories that are tied together in 2 or 3 different ways.
Yeah, every 4th episode or so you'll get a plot episode. Yeah,
and so there's that. With Patlabor, the OVA, you start off with 1 episode and it ends. And then you get the next episode and you're just like, oh, we're going in that direction now. That ends. And then you go, oh, we're going over here now. So it does feel at first like you're like going, does this do anything? But then you realize that episodes 5 and 6 are really the story. That's what it's supposed to be all together. And with the 7th episode as this kind of like, oh yeah, we got to tie up all these ends of things that we're mentioning about, like Beach House and these terrorist groups, and we got to now wrap this all up. And so they do that in a nice little bow.
Oh, episode 7 of that OVA is one of the more satisfying final episodes of an OVA I can think of. Not because, to your point, it's like, oh, finally we have resolution on all these things. More just like, thank you. You brought in all this stuff. You address all of it in a fun, exciting, action-y, adventure-y, slightly dramatic way. And at the end, boom, okay, good. Thank you. I don't ask for much. But yeah, it's cool. And Game Escape, I think you're absolutely right in the chat. That the mundane quality of the OVA is kind of one of the things that makes it endearing. That it is just these people doing this job. And it's not... It's kind of like NCIS, where there's a lot of just these people at their desks, doing research, chatting with each other, just kind of going about their work.
Funny you say it's funny you say that. Bring up
Yeah.
NCIS
Uh-huh. Ah.
because now I remember seeing in chat or in the Discord,
Hmm.
Discord, someone bringing up Made in Japan.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's where this came from.
Hey. Mm-hmm. Ha! Law and Order and Giant Robots. And there we are.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, not far off. But yeah, totally. And I think also it's interesting because the characters. I mean, it takes a little while for all the characters to come together, but then it definitely. It's the other odd thing is that once you get all the characters together, like, oh, it's Urusei Yatsura, it's Ranma. You know, it is very much
Yeah.
this group of characters who are designed to bounce off each other and be, this person needles that person needles that person, and here's how it all.
Yeah.
I mentioned in some of my panels the idea of wa, which is this Japanese term referring to the effective functioning of a group. That, a group can work together even if they don't like each other, but they can just be exactly right for each other, because they're able to push each other in all the right ways. And this is very much one of those groups where, they may yell at each other and they may really tick each other off in various ways, but they need that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's also interesting, getting back to what we were saying about the society, seeing the different little hints they drop in about Japanese society. The idea that there are these giant, massive traffic jams all over the place. The idea that the cops are just stopping traffic for things. Things that you would never imagine the police in Japan doing in the late 80s. The idea that the Patlaborers are armed with these massive guns, and just those little hints about, oh, things are a little different now. Things have changed for them, for Japan as a society. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, when you watch this, and you definitely feel the late '80s, early '90s of Japan in there, with the all the massive construction and the tie-ups in traffic. Which, by the way, should you all in Chatland decide to, and I hope you do, go into the Patlabor franchise, that is a running joke throughout the whole thing. It's just Tokyo traffic. It's a running joke. It goes through the whole thing. But it's really kind of funny because, again, it talks to the accessibility of the show itself. There's, in the traffic jam, you have the guy. Okay, so the series starts off with the chief engineer waiting for the new Patlabor, and he's really excited. He's this old guy, and this is the culmination event of his life, of his professional life, and it's delayed because of traffic. And so it goes from him standing out in the field in the sunshine and the plane flying overhead on reclaimed land, by the way. They make a big deal about that.
Yeah.
And then it keeps going on and going on as it's going later and later to the point where it's at night. He's got a table, a phone, and a kettle and lights, and he's just sitting there. He's just like, darn it, I am here to see the Patlabor, and I'm not moving until this happens.
Yeah. And again, it's that hint of society not breaking down, but definitely straining with all of these changes.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting to me. While at the same time having things like, they all go home for New Year's, and there's Noah, eating natto or whatever. That's not natto, but the sticky thing, and just all the very traditional. Here's your sake. All of those things are just the way they are. Yeah, it's really interesting. There's that kind of. It's one of the fun things about the series is you get a sense of. Anime is not real life. I don't know if you figured that, if you on chat and noticed that.
What?
I know.
What?
I know.
You just crushed my soul, my hopes and dreams. What do you mean? It's not real.
And even shows like Ranma or Urusei, which are definitely set in Japan, are a very heightened reality, and you don't see too much of kind of real everyday life. And even when you do, it's often like this idealized Japanese, kind of almost like Leave It to Beaver over here kind of, life.
Yeah.
Whereas Patlabor feels much more like, this is actual working people in Japan stopping for noodles at a random shop. There's a guy there. I love the fact that the people working at the noodle shops are often like surly.
Yeah.
Not everyone is like, oh, thank you for being here, sir.
Yeah.
Like, no, sure, here, whatever.
Yeah.
800 yen. Get out of here. It's very. As a Ninja / Gundam pilot, I'm pretty sure anime is real. Well, it's real for you, and I applaud you for that. But yeah, it's really it's just Patlabor is interesting for that. So let's talk a bit about the dub.
Okay.
Because I want to talk about the dub. In the Discord, when I was talking about watching this, I forget who it was in the Discord was saying that they had they would be interesting to see my reaction to the dub. The dub is all over the place on this one. I mean, and first I want to call out Goto. Rarely have I heard a better match for a voice than Goto's English dub actor. He manages to capture that, again, sort of world-weary, I've seen it all thing without sounding dead inside. He's able to emote. He's able to do all that stuff, while just getting across like that character really, really well, and for a character who could come across very boring. Never feels boring. Then you have Noah.
I'm sorry, I have to laugh because this is the bone of contention for the series.
Well,
go ahead.
And here's the thing. Because again, I listened to the Japanese dub for the first 4 episodes and the English dub for the last 3, and I do think there's a thing. There's a thing that they did in the earlier anime dubs where they would listen to the Japanese voice and tell the actor to sound like the Japanese voice, or they would try to hire an actor that would sound like the Japanese voice. Female anime voice actors in Japan often pitch their voices rather high. And so I think they wanted Noah's English voice actor to sound like that. It just sounds unnatural in English. To pitch yourself that high. And that's a lot of the problem. She's, a lot of the other stuff, she's kind of, she makes some interesting choices, but not like, oh my gosh, I don't understand why you made that choice. But just that timbre is just off enough that it's kind of off-putting. I didn't hate it, but one of those things was like, architecture, engineering choice there that I think wasn't very helpful.
Yeah. So when you watch other people see it for the first time, and the English dub, and she does Noah's voice, because her voice is different than that, and this is what I see people reacting when Noah speaks for the first time in an excited way. When she gets excited, her character gets excited, and you see people kind of doing this. Okay. Can we go back to Goto? He's more reasonable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, nothing against the actress. I just think that their approaches were made there.
Yeah.
That was Elisa Wayne. Don't know what else she's done. In at least that dub. But yeah, that's weird. Also, can I just point out the fact that in the opening credits sequence, that's her running in the park, right?
Yeah.
But she has black hair.
So yeah. That was the original character design.
Oh. Okay.
But they changed her so that they could put later on a joke. It's not a joke. It's a thing between her and Inazuma.
Okay.
And I don't want to spoil it, but it has to do with her hair, tomatoes, and their relationship.
Okay.
And that's all I'm going to say about it. But the original character design is that her hair is black.
Okay, interesting. Okay, yeah. That explains that.
Yeah.
Then you've got Ota, the gun nut, and boy, I forget who it was in Discord who described it as what was it that I'm forgetting, but that. Ota is the best bad, voice acting. Where it's kind of pushing towards over the top, but like it works.
Yeah.
That's how I felt.
There's one scene in particular towards the beginning where he wants practice with the gun, and Goto explains the whole bureaucracy of it all. And he's being dragged off by Shinji, and he's just screaming off camera almost. It's like, but I want the gun! I want to shoot a gun! Let me shoot the gun! And he's just screaming, and his voice just fades away. Oh my god. And have you ever noticed in the series that he can't hit a damn thing?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So here's this guy who's just loving guns. You know, he's loving all this stuff, and he cannot draw a bead on anything worth the save his life. Literally.
Yeah, yeah. Funny, my dad has a story. When he went into the army, basic training, they had I think M16s, and I think he said they were like the first unit to get M16, something along those lines. So they weren't used to this weapon, and so went down to the firing range. None of them had ever fired a weapon before. You know, they said, okay, point, pull trigger, and he said everyone was freaking out. He said I was freaking out, but I heard the instruction. I said he must know what he's doing. You know, bang, almost a bullseye. Okay, bang, bang. And the sergeant came down and said, okay, you're going in the special class. My dad was like, oh, crap. He just, one of those things where just, in the moment, he just let it all go, and he managed to fire really well. And everyone was like, ooh, you're good at this. I don't want to be good at this. I'm just,
No, this is not a thing.
Right. Whereas I'm sure all the guys were like, oh, yeah, this is going to be great. Bang, 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 bang. But yeah, totally. So, yeah, and again, it's one of those weird things where Ota is very much this comedic character, right? You're not going to take him at all seriously. So I do appreciate the fact that they made that choice. It's just, yeah, I mean, he should be ridiculous. Like, that is the point. And then everyone else, again, in the voice is fine. Like, everyone else. Like, some things are a little dull. The voice actors who played
Shinobu?
No.
Kanuka?
Maybe it was. No, not Shinohara. I'm looking back through. Where is it? Sorry. Yes, Nagamo. Shinobu. Yeah. Fine. Whatever. It's weird. Like, it's just not weird, but it's just kind of this whole spectrum. Whereas the Japanese voice cast, I was like, okay, fine. Like, everyone seems to be hitting their marks, but like nothing remarkable. It's totally cool. But yeah, anime voice acting in English has definitely different than it used to be. It is just all over the place. Because again, they hire different people. Like, that is that. So I'm trying to think what else. Patlabor OVA. It's, like I said, I enjoyed it because I think for me, I was able to appreciate the fact that it is kind of a bunch of different things all at once. That it is comedy, it is action, it's kind of police procedural. It's not much police procedural, I'll admit, but it's kind of there. And it's, but again, it can also be kind of that tense melodrama, NCIS Law and Order kind of thing of,
right.
Will the bomb go off kind of thing. And it shifts between all of those things just on a whim, almost.
Yeah, it's if you treat each story as its own story, which it is, okay, that made a lot of sense. So if you treat each story just as its own thing, it's pretty enjoyable to watch. Mm-hmm. You don't get a message at the end of every at the end of every episode, but there are things that they talk about, and there's some things that are talked about seriously, which is, like, for example, guns. Actually. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's an entire episode devoted to an event that happens, and Oda overreacts. But imagine that Oda overreacting to something and using his firearm in the wrong way, and coming to learn that there were blanks put into his gun for this very purpose because they knew he was going to do that. But it's like a huge thing that they go through to learn about, and this is another facet of more Japanese society than it is ours when it concerns firearms. And it's funny and it's weird and it's just kind of this like weird story that goes through. And at the end of it, you realize, okay, this is pretty serious, because what they're talking about is if this had been real and Oda had overreacted and treating the gun like a toy, like he was doing, somebody could have gotten really hurt, and instead of just property damage. And it's a huge big deal because the gun laws are a lot different in Japan than they are here. And this is not, by the way, I don't want to get into a whole Second Amendment thing, whatever. I'm just saying that it's different. Right. It's different over there. They look at it differently, and that episode kind of drives that point home, where they say, this is a real thing. Now, another thing that I found interesting about this series in terms of firearms is that when they make the shotgun for the Sea Monster episode, Shige, who's the master or one of the chief mechanics there, he builds it out of spare parts. Now, that is a thing. That was a thing in the 60s and 70s and the 80s, where illegal arms dealers in Japan, because it was hard to get firearms into Japan, I had to buy them off Army bases, U.S. Army bases, or you made your own. And so a lot of people who dealt with firearms learned how to make their own.
Gotcha.
So when they were talking about how Shige made this huge shotgun for it, and they show it being in Oda using it. I think it was Oda using it at a target in the bay, and everyone's like cheering because he blows it up. Goto just goes, "Oh, this is a horrible idea. This is a horrible idea." But you get those issues that that come in, and
which is interesting for a mecha series, where mecha series typically all about the guns, all about the cool new technology. No, we don't want this.
No, this is such a bad idea, and it also drives another point home about the whole story of OVA Special Vehicle Unit 2, which is their name. There's a designation, is that this is brand new.
Yeah.
So when they introduced the Patlabors, this is all brand new technology. This is all brand new everything. So everyone's literally making it up as they go along. So when you look at this and you go, well, why are they in the airport hangar on reclaimed land out in the middle of nowhere? It's because they don't really know how to use these things. And the last thing you want is someone like Oda to be tromping around, or like I keep threatening to go over to Japan and steal the Gundam. I mean, that's the last thing anybody wants is the big white guy in the Gundam wandering around Tokyo.
Where did they build that life-size Gundam? On reclaimed land?
Yeah. So, but that's kind of one of the points of the story is that they're all feeling their way through this job because it's brand new to everybody.
Yeah. It's also interesting seeing how, again, in episode 7, this is not a spoiler, Noah goes home and faces like really quite strong pressure from her family of, why aren't you married yet? You can't hold down a job. This isn't going to work. You got to get married. You got to get married. You got to get married. She's like, nope.
Yep.
Don't care.
Don't care. Not my thing.
Yeah. Which, and obviously those roles have changed, dramatically over time. But even then, late 80s, like that was a pretty strong statement to make in the sense that there's certainly plenty of, women holding down jobs by that point. But to have a female character just kind of put her foot down at that point in the OVA and say, nope, this is my choice. I'm going to do this. I do not care what you're going to say. It was definitely a little bit of female empowerment there.
Well, and I would have to say that if you were given the choice of driving a Patlabor as a police officer as opposed to taking over the family business of being a liquor store owner in Hokkaido, I think I'd take the Patlabor job. Exactly. I think that'd be the more appropriate one.
Definitely, yeah. I think that when when Asuma calls her, he's like, "Why are you in Hokkaido?" Like
Yeah. Why are you so far away?
Why would anyone live there?
And I just think it was that whole scene where he and her old man, the old man, the father, are drinking sake on New Year's Eve, and they're just gunning it back, and so finally he sees the two of them argue, Azuma and Noah argue, and he's just like, forget it. He just gives up because he's clearly seeing what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is one of the fascinating things about the show is that you do get to see these bits of Japanese society that you wouldn't otherwise, and in just kind of a fun, lighthearted way in a lot of ways. I guess one of the things I appreciate about the show is that, to that point, is it never feels, it never dwells on any of these themes long enough to feel preachy. It's more, here's a thing, here's a thing, here's a thing, here's a little note, and you can kind of enjoy that, and then, or just ponder that, and then move on.
Yeah. Now the series, the OVA does give you. It's pretty obvious that they wanted to do a lot with the series. It's very obvious. One of the things that they did was, of course, the relationship between Shinobu and Goto, and how that was. Goto is like, he's almost like a puppy dog with her. He follows her everywhere.
Oh, there's a scene in episode 7 where they smile at each other, and I was like, okay.
Yeah. So that gets explored, a little bit more exploration. But one of the things that, if you notice at the end of one of the episodes, one of the things that you learn is that in episodes 5 and 6, where they're talking about the takeover of Tokyo and the guy who's the enemy, you come to learn that they were friends in college, he and Goto, and then people keep asking Goto, are you on that guy's side or not? I mean, what are you doing? And he doesn't answer.
Yeah.
He never answers. But the enemy says, it's at the end of that story arc where he goes, it's amazing what two people started, but then 20 years later, how they grow apart. So you kind of figure out that, oh wait, Goto was something else back in his life.
Well,
and that gets explored.
Okay, well, and you're absolutely right. They mentioned all that stuff, and I was like, okay, that's interesting for this villain. And then the episode ends with a freeze frame on the villain's face, which they then hold through the entire end credits. Okay, they're definitely this is not the end of this plot line. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Boy, yeah, it's really interesting. And it's one of the fun things about it too. I guess is that you do feel that larger world. You do feel like there's a lot more that they're kind of that they want to explore that they just can't because of time. That said, definitely like the animation quality is, boy, that's hard to find. Again, it varies.
Boy, does it vary. Yeah.
There's some gorgeous shots. There's that truck in episode 7. Holy mackerel!
Yeah. There are some great shots in this anime where, particularly with the mecha or anything mechanized, that in there where it's really, really nice, and then some of it's just like, wow, we rushed through that one, but they're skipping on the hours that week.
Yeah, all right. It's definitely all right. Let's cut to the bad guys, and they're standing there, still standing there.
There.
Yep. Okay.
Amazing powers of being able to stand still for that long. Wow.
Yeah. It's atmosphere. Right? It's all atmosphere.
Yeah. But then you get the truck scene, like you're talking about the truck scene, and it's just like you're like, oh crap. It's just like someone took time on that. They got the hours that week. It's just...
Yeah. Clearly, like Animation Nerd Kuromi, like some guy spent 3 months destroying that thing. Gosh. Yeah, it's nuts. And it's a good example of the power of the OVA, where you're not on that budget. We were seeing it. This came out over the course of about a year, so you had a couple of months between each episode, and so you can kind of you can put the time in to those things where you can, and where you can't, that's that's the nature of any production. But you can really make it like sing in those moments.
And if you are a military kind of mech kind of person where you want to see an actual, again, talking about how it's not like Gundam where everything's super articulated, but this is actual mechanical, limited movement and limited ability and what they can do and things like that. This is probably the most realistic military mecha that you see in a lot of anime.
I mean, is this a spoiler? Whatever. Gasaraki, they spent a lot of time trying to be very grounded, but they also were like, and the musculature is kind of aliens, maybe? I don't know. They're like, some of this technology is just impossible, and we're just gonna live with that and move on. And Patlabor still, it is hard to move 5 tons of metal.
Right.
But still, you're absolutely right. Like it feels like people thinking through what this would feel like in real life. Totally.
I mean, putting a 20 millimeter Vulcan cannon on the shoulder of a thing where we're used to blazing swords and just, big mega guns and the dance of the missiles and all that stuff. And in Patlabor, you get a 20 millimeter Vulcan cannon, and you get a wonderful scene of what an old mecha can't do. When they actually have to put it in the back of a pickup truck.
That's right.
To get it to move. And just merely by shooting the gun, the whole thing just falls to pieces.
Well, this is one of the things I really appreciate about it is that these mecha move around on flatbed trucks.
Yep.
And like they've been modified to have little bars to come out to sort of keep them in place. But it's not, magic latching technology that, and it flies out anywhere. No, it's just, raise the bed, off it comes. Like it's very reasonable. Yeah. It's cool. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. Patlabor OVA for me was a really fun introduction to the franchise. And it hits enough different tones that you'll find something to enjoy in any piece of it. So, 2 thumbs up.
Oh, 2 thumbs up.
Cool. All right, we'll be back in just a few minutes to talk about what is going on in the world. And until then, we'll be right back. Hello, everyone. We are back to talk about anime and manga and stuff.
Stop.
Yes, exactly. Already talked a bit about our week and what's been going on, and we talked about Patlabor and all that kind of good stuff. I remember there was something that was mentioned in Discord that I wanted to bring up. Let me see if I can find that here real quick. Thanks to Kitamono for the suggestion for a food channel in Discord, because we have that now. And folks talking about food, because food is important.
It is.
I just can't quite figure out what it was. That is okay. I've actually been curious for a little while. What is that red moon behind you, Steve?
The which one?
The red moon box. There's a box behind you that says red moon. What is that?
Oh, Red Moon. Oh,
Yeah.
that. I'm gonna get it. It's actually a book
Yeah.
for you science fiction fans.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you all are familiar with Kim Stanley Robinson.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Red Moon.
Okay.
So basically, I got this from the library, and it is. It's sort of kind of like a detective story. So it takes place on the moon, and the Chinese have basically developed the moon.
Oh, okay.
So this is in the very near future. We're talking like still in the 2000s, but later on, the Chinese have put bases up there, and some other countries are up there. But basically, they're the leads on the moon, whereas other people went to other places like Mars and stuff like that. So they decided that the moon was theirs. And so there's this guy an American who goes up there with a piece of communication technology to give to, who works for a Swiss company, to give to another person there on the moon. And it's supposed to be a private transaction, not anything nefarious, but just a private transaction. And he is meeting with one of the people that he's supposed to meet with to facilitate this other meeting, who is the leader, kind of like the governor of the Chinese part of the moon. And suddenly both of them wind up in the hospital. The governor is dead and he's been arrested.
Okay.
Before that, he befriends, as he's going up there, the story actually starts with him in the capsule landing on the moon with another Chinese person who is a very famous Feng Shui master.
Mm-hmm.
And so this guy is helping the American authorities on the moon to figure out what's going on here.
Interesting.
And so it's a little bit of a detective espionage kind of story, and
cool.
a la Kim Stanley Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
So
Cool.
As you're interested, it's been pretty good so far.
Nice. Yeah. Obviously, banking on the Red Mars name a little bit there.
Yep. Yep. Just a little
Makes
bit.
sense,
It's a sort of popular book of his.
Yeah,
So
people have
it's
heard about it, I
just
think.
a little bit. Just a little bit.
Yeah. That's cool. I do feel like there's a lot more interest in that kind of science fiction these days. I think now with the SpaceX and everything else going on, folks are like, oh yeah, that's a thing that might happen. We can start exploring that.
Yeah.
And with the popularity of stuff like The Expanse and the Tree Body Problem and all those, I think folks are like, oh yeah, there's a bit of a revitalization of written science fiction, which I appreciate.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Speaking
Go ahead.
You mentioned before you've been rereading Dune.
Yes.
How far into that are you now?
Oh, I finished it because it's
cool.
Dune. But it's I've read that book. I mean, I could probably do an entire recital of it. I've read it so many times. But it still holds up after all these years for the most part. And each reading, because I back when I first started reading it, I would read it, hold off for about 3 or 4 months, read it again, and then that kind of a thing. And then as time between each reads expands, I find newer things, maybe some type of tonal thing, or maybe a detail that I had not noticed before. Like, for example, I've never really paid attention to the coffee service.
Oh yeah.
in Dune and how big of a deal it is for the Fremen in that.
Right.
And I totally, to me, I'm not really a coffee much of a coffee drinker, so, but you forget that coffee and tea are such a big social thing in so many cultures, Chinese, Japanese, Middle Eastern nations, the whole 9 yards. It's a big deal. It's a thing. It's important. And so as they're talking in Dune about like evacuating one Steech to go to another one because the Harkonnens are coming, everyone is about to like ready to leave stuff behind, but not the coffee service.
Wow.
That comes. That goes with everybody.
Yeah.
That's a thing that that's what you take.
Yeah, that's really
Leave
cool.
the child behind or the coffee service. The coffee service.
Child will probably die anyway. Like whatever.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's totally cool. There's a lot of there's a great thing in, I think it's Dune Messiah, where like a prologue, epilogue there, where it's just Frank Herbert running to the audience is saying, basically, he said, I wanted to do so many things in that book, way more than one could reasonably put into a book, and I just decided to put it all in. And it really feels like that way. And it doesn't feel overstuffed. It just feels like there's just history coming out of the pores of that novel.
Yeah.
And all these decisions behind the scenes. Well, the fact that I think we talked about this before. It's not until the appendix of Dune that gets into the fact that the Bene Gesserit planted the seeds of the Kwisatz Haderach and all that kind of stuff so that the Lady Jessica could say the things that she said, so that it would connect with the Fremen there, so that they could do all the things.
Right.
That didn't even make it into the main plot. It's like, jeez.
Right. Yeah, it's one of those details where he spends a good page on describing just the fact that she recognizes a key phrase and goes, oh, they did that here. And then you're like sitting, and then you, the reader, you're like sitting there going, did that here? What does that mean?
Yeah. There are all these societies doing all these things in that book. And it's wonderful. It's also been interesting reading up on what they're doing with the new movie, and how they're making choices around what to do with the movie. Like saying that, and I forget exactly how they phrased this, but it said basically, all respect to Frank Herbert, but the Baron Harkonnen is a pretty straight up villain in that novel. There's just no subtlety to that. So for the movie, they're trying to add a little bit more, what's pushing him, why is he making these choices, kind of a stuff. I'm like, good. Like that's the thing where again, you don't have, not everybody has to be a morally complicated character, but decades later, looking back on it, you can say, oh, I see a thing we could add in here, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to in the movie is a little bit more. I was about to use the term fleshed out, Baron Harkonnen, but he's pretty well fleshed out.
Yeah, all the flesh.
All the flesh needs a suspensor suit to move around. So, yeah, because in the book, and you get a gram of an idea, and when you go into the actual, I think it's the son that did all the other books. A few years ago. There is the story about how that happened.
Okay.
I'm not going to spoil it for anybody. You might want to read it, but it's an interesting story. But in the book itself, you're right. I mean, it's just Baron, Vladimir Harkonnen. He's just like, just the name itself, it screams just like, I wish death and ill on your family, And it'll be nice to see a movie wherein they give him a little bit more dimension because, I watched the Kyle MacLachlan version, the David Lynch version of it, and it's just, dude, the actor who played Harkonnen I loved him. He was a great actor, but it was just so over the top. But it really was like the book where the guy's over the top, and you just kind of go, okay, can we get kind of like more of a more of a centered kind of villain going on here.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they tried to do with Peter de Vries, but even then it's just,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I've been reading Road to Dune, which was the essentially the first draft of the novel, which they then fleshed out into a full story. And in that, Vladimir Harkonnen is just a brilliant rival to House Atreides. There's none of the sort of Flash Gordon villainy kind of a thing to it.
Yeah, Ming the Merciless.
Exactly. Which again is fun and it's fine. But he's played much more as a Game of Thrones villain, right? Where there's a lot of machination going on. He's playing a long game, all this stuff going on. You get a much better sense of it in that version. So I'm hoping they go a little bit more with that. We'll see.
Yeah. And maybe they'll talk a little bit more about the battle where the Harkonnens betrayed the Atreides.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
There's a lot where they just kind of, in the book, it's like, and here's half a phrase that mentions this thing that happened, 50 years ago that caused all this to happen. You're like, okay.
Context expand, please. Please.
Yeah. If you can track it down, at one point, Frank Herbert did an audiobook of excerpts of Dune.
Oh my God.
And so it's Frank Herbert reading pieces of Dune, and he reads the entire banquet scene.
Wow.
And it's great.
Wow.
Nothing like hearing an author read their own works. Found that in the library at one point, on books on tape, like literally on tape.
Sure, yeah.
Cassette
tape.
Cassette tapes. That's a treat. Did y'all hear that? Shoot. All right, hold on. We're having a thing. We have an issue. For some reason.
A ghost in a machine.
Yeah, absolutely. Why is okay? That's that. We're almost there. Hold on. Yep. Gotta wait for that to. Okay. All right. Hold on. It's trying to be smart for me, which I really don't appreciate. Cool. Okay. I think we're good. Welcome to the latest anime news for the week ending April 3rd. Nailed it. 2021. We're talking about all the latest anime news, and we will begin with news of Tokyo Babylon, the anime series being canceled due to plagiarism. The website for Studio Gohan's new adaptation of Clamp's Tokyo Babylon, which came out a while ago, the manga did, announced this week the production company has officially canceled the current production of the anime and plans to start fresh with a completely new production.
Oof.
Yeah, an investigation was held back in November after two of the new character designs appeared to be plagiarized. You can see them there. And according to the committee's statement this week, even more instances of plagiarism were discovered through the investigation. The original two designs that prompted the investigations are those of twins Hokuto and Subaru, which you can see in the side-by-side comparisons. Hokuto's outfit, the pink and black one up top, is very similar to one worn in a promotional image from Korean girl group Red Velvet, while Subaru's newly designed robes seem to draw heavily from a Volks doll Onmyoji outfit and pose from 2017 catalogs.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. As stated in the cancellation announcement, the investigation caused the production committee to lose faith in the production, but Clamp and the committee will work to start a new production as quickly as possible. Originally, Tokyo Babylon 2021 was slated to debut this month, but the investigation in the fall delayed production even before this cancellation.
Wow.
Yeah, looking at it, it's kind of hard not to see.
I know, right?
Yeah, and to be clear, any character design, you're gonna pull inspiration from different things. You're gonna say, "Oh, I like the way that dress falls" or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's not this.
No, it's one thing to be inspired or one thing to pay homage where it's definitely recognized as, okay, someone's giving me tribute to this thing that I've done. It's a whole other thing going, I'm just gonna that looks good to me. I'm gonna take
the
it.
Same pose.
I know.
Literally the same. Like, geez, come on. You can at least move an arm or something.
The guy who does the webcomic Sinfest.
Oh yeah.
Tetsuya, I forget his last name. He relates a story about how he had gotten caught.
Really?
For plagiarizing a aircraft, I think.
Wow.
From a animation series for a comic that he was drawing, and he's called into the office and saying, you can't do that. You can't do that. So, but that's one of those things where it's just like, to me, with technology such as it is, I would think that at some point you would understand that somebody somewhere is going to figure it out.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's the thing.
Yeah, somebody is going to figure it out. So,
yeah.
Just be late. It's okay.
And maybe you can blame the tight production schedules of anime on this. I don't know.
Right.
But this does feel blatant.
Oh, it's totally. Look at it. I mean, come on. It's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just no. So yeah, it's just I don't know. Moving on to happier news. Really remarkable thing here, actually. Today's a special day for all the Tokusatsu fans out there. April 3rd marks the 50th anniversary of the beloved Kamen Rider franchise. Yeah. And as could be expected, the franchise had a couple of big announcements this week. First up is the reveal of a web anime adaptation of Futo Detectives, which is the sequel manga to the 11th Heisei Kamen Rider series, Kamen Rider Double. The new anime Futo Pai, I think I'm pronouncing that, will begin in the summer of 2022 and will be the first anime series in the Kamen Rider franchise ever. I cannot believe that.
I know, it's hard to believe.
Absolutely. That series aired from 2009 to 2010. The manga back in 2017 and is Kamen Rider Double's official sequel, and written by the TV series main scriptwriter. A new live-action Shin Kamen Rider film was also announced to be written and directed by Hideaki Anno of Evangelion and Shin Godzilla fame. Yeah. The film is currently set to open in March of 2023, so basically in 2 years. Anno has a quote, no big surprise. Quote, 5 decades ago, almost every grade school boy was enthralled by the life-size hero Kamen Rider. I was no exception. I launched this project out of the desire to give back a little for the great gifts I received from the TV shows 5 decades ago in the form of a movie 5 decades later, end quote. He also noted the project began with planning memos 6 years ago, but the production schedule slipped due to COVID-19, obviously, so the opening is about 2 years later than originally planned. Toei also posted a Kamen Rider 50th anniversary memorial video edited by Anno. Haven't seen that yet, but that should be a trip. Finally, a new Kamen Rider series was announced this week based on Kamen Rider Black from '87, which will be called Kamen Rider Black Sun, launching in spring of 2022, with an aim of appealing to adult viewers.
Oh.
Let me ask you this. What does that mean?
Right.
And then Kamen Rider strips off his uniform. I don't know. It's just
No!
We need to see that.
Don't ruin my childhood. No.
I remember watching on stream, somebody was streaming Kamen Rider episodes, and I came on stream, and before they started, people were in chat going, please, thank you, please, thank you, please. And I thought they were kind of joking, and they were being, kind of rowdy. And then I discovered in this Kamen Rider episode, the character casts spells to do various things, and so things would show up, and a disembodied voice, whenever he does this, would yell out, "Please! Thank you!"
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Kamen Rider. Oh my God, that was a thing. That was such a thing. I mean, I saw it when I was a kid. That somehow made it to our broadcast area.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was all about dirt bikes, suits, being heroes, and stuff like that. And the idea that you can have neurosurgery being done in a bunker as you're being shelled and dust is falling down and nothing bad will happen to your brain.
Yeah. It's basically like changing the oil in an engine.
Yeah,
You're fine.
Yeah, not a problem. We'll just switch it from this head to this body over here. Not a problem.
Yeah. Well, it's the funny thing about Kamen Rider is it always has been a series with a slightly older, edgier kind of audience, compared to like the Power Rangers kind of stuff.
Right.
So I'm wondering if they mean more in the sense that they're going to appeal to be a little darker, be a little more serious.
Someone might actually die.
Right. Moving on to something more serious news. We all know that posting unauthorized uploads of manga pages can get you into legal trouble, but as of this week, the Tokyo District Court has ruled that even unauthorized posting of manga text dialogue, granted a lot of it, is considered copyright infringement. Shogakukan had requested information from the server provider of a manga spoiler website on a person who'd posted nearly the entire dialogue text of a manga without authorization. So again, that's the context. The judge ruled that this person's action did constitute copyright infringement on reproduction and public transmission, and that the information on the spoiler site and the individual who uploaded the text should be handed over to Shogakukan. The claim was brought to court when a website was flagged for posting both pictures and information from, get this, 63 chapters that had not yet released on Shogakukan's service. Yeah. Staff from that service claimed that these spoiler sites have become a major issue with leaks of unreleased chapters, especially during the pandemic, and they've earned a substantial amount of advertising revenue from the leaks. So this is a for-profit motive from the leakers. Now, while Shogakukan alleges that the spoiler site hosted images as well as dialogue, this week's ruling was specifically about the posting of the nearly 63 chapters of dialogue. The publisher's lawyer considers the court's ruling a significant milestone in the enforcement of manga copyrights, calling it epoch making.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I mean, that's just. I mean, here, I mean that would be kind of like. I mean, honestly, it's just basically taking somebody's book, releasing it, and then making profit off of that.
Right.
And that's what it is. And that's and the the idea that this lawsuit hasn't happened yet. I mean, that was my thing. I was like going, wait a minute, this hasn't come up before. Nobody's made this lawsuit before.
Well, and that's an interesting thing. I wonder if basically they posted some images, but all the text to essentially spoil it. And so they couldn't nail them on posting a few images, but by saying, but the entire plot is here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. Are we at all worried about trickle-down effects to, posting small bits of dialogue from a manga, that kind of stuff?
Right. Because you want to see how far this can take it. Because, one of the things about fair use, the idea of fair use here in America, is that the law on the premise behind it that judges use is that you have to use whatever the country of origin is using. So, if you were to do, and this makes it all more interesting in that it's internet.
Yeah.
So, that's a little kind of, crank in the plan. But when you do fair use, if you do something to the effect of you use an image, or if you use a snippet of audio or a snippet of whatever to accentuate what you're writing. So if you're writing a review of something, this is what you use, then that's one thing.
Yeah.
And that's why they call it fair use, because you're not really divulging anything. You're just using something to make your point with. But if you and you can even spoil a book that hasn't been published yet by putting out what happens in the end, and that's fine. You're not going to get sued for taking the entire book and throwing it out there. But this is where this is intellectual copyright. So this is where you just take an entire thing. I mean, to take an entire thing like that and post it, that's just, I mean, is it 10 o'clock yet? No, I can't. Okay. You're just being a jerk. I'll be nice and say you're being a jerk. I mean,
and you're making money off it.
Right, and that's the worst part. It's like it's not even like a revenge thing. It's or anything like that. You're literally like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna make money by thank you for writing this book for me so that I can make money off of it, and you get you lose that income because that's really what it's all about is who gets the income from it. Fair use is basically one of those things where it's not worrisome about income, and that's the whole point of fair use. But when you start talking about this is what I lose because you're posting this, then that becomes a big problem. So, I my hope is that they don't go like draconian on this.
Sure.
And then in Japan, because I'm not familiar with Japan's version of fair use as opposed to ours.
It's different.
It's different. It's definitely I just hope it's not one of those things where if I'm doing a review of a manga like Drops of God, or like if I did that, and someone says, "Oh, you used the text, or you said you used this picture, whatever," we're gonna sue you. So like,
okay. And it sounds like this is not that context. It sounds like this is in the context of unreleased material, being posted online for profit, specifically to make profit off the fact that it's unreleased and you're spoiling it and revealing it to the world. So I think that's very different. And Captain Laser Eyes is asking, is reading a plot of a movie that hasn't been released in the U.S. yet on Wikipedia illegal? No. This is the Japanese law, so it doesn't apply to us yet. Or anyway, and also, and again, it's this is about something that is hasn't been released at all, being made public, as opposed to just not in your region of the world.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried. I don't think this is a sign of problems to come. I think it is one of those things where, again, in this situation, you can see where they're being jerks. Like I can't defend that behavior of taking other people's material, uploading it online, and putting ads on it. Like it just it doesn't feel right. So that is a thing. Speaking of controversies on the internet, as vaccinations roll out across the country, more events have been looking towards in-person events again. You might have seen some controversy stirred up this week by SAC Anime, which is holding a swap meet event this weekend, April 2nd through 4th, at the Placer Valley Event Center in California's Placer County. Seems fine, right? Well, that center is Placer County's main vaccination site, which listed vaccine appointments for April 1st and 2nd as closed for event at venue, end quote. The clinic extended its hours Monday through Wednesday this week to compensate for the closure. Now, SAC Anime issued a statement on Monday saying the clinic had never had plans to be open on those 2 days, and that the center had declined SAC Anime's offer to restrict the swap meet space to still accommodate vaccinations for the dates. A statement on SAC Anime's website reads, quote, "Although there's a lot of vitriol posted on social media about our upcoming event, we are not canceling. We are running a safe, socially distant, 25% of capacity, mask-enforced anime convention adapted to be a swap meet," end quote. And they've been working with the venue and the county health department from the very beginning. Sure. SAC Anime canceled both its summer 2020 and winter 2021 events due to the coronavirus, instead of holding an outdoor swap meet at the same center last September. Instead holding an outdoor swap meet, so they did that last September. This weekend swap meet was originally going to be in January, but delayed due to a surge of COVID cases and the stay-at-home orders issued to most of California. Now, SAC isn't the only event discussing in-person events this week, as organizers of San Diego Comic-Con International revealed that they plan to host an in-person event over Thanksgiving weekend, November 22nd through 28th, which will be called Comic-Con Special Edition, okay, with attendance capacity, badge cost, and other information to be revealed at a later date. The organizers stated that they hope that by fall conditions will permit larger public gatherings. this year's large physical event scheduled for July was canceled earlier this month. It will be a 3-day virtual event instead. So, yeah, this is tough. Like, obviously, I don't know SAC. I don't know anything involved in there. It certainly looks bad. It feels like one of those things where if you're going to be at a convention center or at an event space that is being used for, active vaccinations against a worldwide pandemic, and you've been working with them from the beginning, and then you publish and say, hey guys, we're going to be here, and don't mention any of the context, don't mention any of the, we've been working with them, this is not, this was free events time, like we're not getting in the way of vaccinations or anything. That seems unwise. It seems like you would want to mention that.
Yeah. I think, it's one of those things where I think it was not mentioned purposely. I mean, this is my supposition, by the way, folks. This is not me knowing something. This is just my brain coming up with this. My guess is that they purposely probably did not want to mention that because they want people to come. Because I think all of us would be reasonable people and go, do I really want to go to a convention center where all these people are getting vaccinated? And because there's all these different questions of, will I get the COVID? What if I have COVID and I give it to these people who are trying to get the vaccination, or vice versa? And even though it is separated out, certainly, it sounds like, it's not like it's not like it's commingled or anything. Hey, get your shot and watch anime. It's like,
although, I mean, if that was a service, I'd do it.
The new Crunchyroll service. COVID in an anime, COVID-19 vaccine in an anime. But it just seems to me that
crossover. Sorry,
that would be awesome. I really so badly wanted to cosplay as one of the cells.
Yeah.
When I got my first shot, maybe when I get my second shot.
That's a good idea.
But you would think that actually, as the event planners, even if you're doing this, even if you're, we all want badly to be there. We want, we all badly want to go to the convention, whatever that convention is. But it just seems to me that somebody should have said, should we really be doing this at the same time as people are getting vaccinations in this place? Maybe if we kind of did this in just in a different type of capacity in a hotel that might let us do that kind of thing.
And it sounds like basically nothing else was going to be happening at that time. Like they had, for some reason, blocked off 2 days, and so they could have that space. So it's like no one was going to get vaccinated at the same time anyway. It was just, vaccinations on Thursday, then they all clear out. Then Friday, Saturday, you can do the convention thing, and then next whatever. But it's just kind of weird. Ginger, I completely agree with you. Much as I miss cons, this feels like such an oddly half measure to do a con.
You put it much more nicely than I would have. But yeah,
it's like let's just wait until we can have a con again. Like
yeah. I mean, I know Otakon is still, thinking that they're going to have their thing right now, or I had at least the last time I checked the website, which was a couple of days ago. But again, they're in a position and they're in a place where that's not an issue. Anything. And the whole reason why they part of the reason why they canceled them, last year was because it was actually being used as a facility, and we all know that it takes time to clean up and all that kind of thing. So there is, it felt like, here's what it feels like to me. It feels like to me like somebody said, I just wanna. And please, can't we just figure out a way around this? And it sounds like, everyone went around the barn in the most oblique way to accomplish this goal. And it's just like, you just sit there and you hear this, and it's just, for all we know, this is all very innocent.
Sure.
Everybody, nobody's being nefarious here or anything like that. but still, it just seems like
So,
wasn't there somebody in that meeting that said,
right, yeah.
guys,
Yeah,
guys, I don't know. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. I love the various. It's one of the best ways of kind of fact checking yourself is imagining, okay, you know, let's imagine that that was actually true. Let's imagine that, they're sitting around saying, how can we interfere with vaccinations?
Yes.
We'll plan an anime convention at the same time they're doing vaccinations. No, no. But yeah, no, it's strange. I think it just feels like you say it feels like it was just people like really really wanting to do the thing. Although on the other hand, it might be like we're talking about Otakon, where they're like, we can't afford to keep skipping years.
Yeah.
And so it might be one of those things where they're like, we got to do something just so that some cash flows in. Otherwise, we're just dead in the water.
Yeah.
But this feels like not the right thing to do.
Not the right choice.
Yeah. Well, I also want to, why a swap meet?
I mean, that just makes it sounds worse. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
Hey, swapping anime? No, here you go.
Exactly. No, pandemic. Let's move a lot of things around physically between different people's hands. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, it's odd. Let's move on to a happier news story. If I can find it. There we go. Whoops. There we go. We have some new information on Mamoru Hosoda's next film. This week, Toho began streaming the full trailer for Mamoru Hosoda's upcoming film Belle, subtitled The Dragon and the Freckled Princess, which will officially open in July. The staff also unveiled the character designs of the titular Belle, done by none other than Jin Kim of Disney's Frozen, Tangled, Moana, and others. That's why that looks like that. Yeah.
Okay.
According to Hosoda's studio Chizu, quote, Mamoru Hosoda and Jin have long respected each other's work, but met for the first time when Mirai was nominated for an Oscar in Los Angeles. There, they promised to one day work together on something creatively and finally realized that goal with Belle, end quote. Chizu also announced it collaborated on the film with staff from Irish studio Cartoon Saloon, whom you may know from Song of the Sea and The Secret of Kells.
Oh.
Yeah. The film portrays the ever-evolving online world of You, which is definitely not Oz from Summer Wars, and follows high school girl Suzu, who rediscovers her love of singing in the virtual world. They say it'll feature themes of, and I quote, coming of age, family ties, love between parents and children, friendship that transcends species, and links between our lives, end quote. So again,
online.
totally not Summer Wars. That's the thing. So that's an interesting sort of international staff on this. Kind of exciting.
Yeah.
And to be clear, like it's very Beauty and the Beast. Like the whole Belle thing. Like there's some strong like this. She has a big like red cloak running through the wood kind of thing. Like it's very Beauty and the Beast. Yeah, it's that. There's also kind of a Ancient Majesty's Bride feel about it too a little bit.
Yeah, I saw that picture and I was like, wait a minute. I've seen this before. What?
It's the girl from Tangled.
Yeah.
Not, but still. Yeah, so really cool. If you get a chance to check out that trailer, it's really it's definitely a Mamoru Hosoda film. Like you will get all the feel. It's also interesting. We were mentioning in the Discord. There's a big visual difference between Belle and the other characters, and it's really interesting seeing like the contrast between Belle as like this very designed, intricate sort of character design thing, and then you have Japanese high school kids, and so it's that contrast is interesting as to where they're going with the film.
Huh.
Yeah. Let's see here. Also this week, stories we want to mention. This is the 10th anniversary of Kunihiko Ikuhara's Mawaru Penguin Drum anime. The anniversary website for the series announced this week a compilation film of the project titled, and I love this, Recycle of Penguin Drum has been greenlit. The project will re-edit all 24 episodes of the original anime and will add new sequences. Ikuhara will direct the new film as well, and comment of the staff still often hear from fans and that he's happy that the characters still live in their hearts. I'm sure he is. Along with the compilation film, the 10th anniversary project also includes a crowdfunding campaign, only for supporters in Japan, unfortunately. The film will still be made if the goal is not met. The goal is about $90,000 as the proceeds from the crowdfunding campaign will be used instead for improving the quality of the new parts of the film, its sound and music, and in promotion and distribution. Backers will, of course, receive unique gifts based on the level of donations to the campaign, ranging from special illustrations, stickers, T-shirts, an exclusive online community, and a private screening, and even a credit in the film's ending, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I really like this idea of saying basically, okay, we're gonna make the movie. Like, we've got the people to make the movie. The crowdfunding is gonna plus it. You know, it's gonna make it better, but.
I remember you saying that in Discord. That's kind of nice where where people are honest with where the money's going to go, and how you're going to use it, as opposed to like going, okay, if we don't meet it, then it's all for nothing, But it's really kind of nice that they're willing to do that. I like the idea.
Yeah,
that too.
Makes sense. This year also marks the 50th anniversary of the Karate Master martial arts manga. It tells the story of a former soldier who finds meaning in life after World War II through practicing karate. To celebrate the milestone, an HD remastered version of the 1973 TV anime will broadcast in Japan starting on April 9th. The original version was released on DVD in the US by Discotek, so if you want to get a chance, go back and check that, and hopefully we'll get a remaster over here. A website opened this week for a new original anime project from director Masaomi Ando and Studio Lerche, a team that previously created the anime of School Live, Astro Lost in Space, Toilet Bound Hanako-kun, and others. The new anime is titled Turnabout World's Battery Girl, and the key image features the phrase, Rumble Garandol.
I don't even know what to say to that.
Aniplex announced on Sunday that Jun Mochizuki's... Say what? Aniplex, thank you. Announced on Sunday the steampunk vampire manga, The Case Study of Vanitas, is getting a TV anime adaptation produced by Studio Bones, set to premiere this summer. That sounds cool. The cover for next week's issue of Weekly Shonen Magazine by Kodansha was revealed on Amazon this week and lists that Hiroshi Noda and Takehiro Wakamatsu's Love After World Domination manga is getting an anime project. It's a romantic comedy following the relationship between the leader of a hero squadron trying to bring world peace and the leader of a secret organization aiming for world domination. Sounds adorable. Kadokawa announced on Thursday that Haruki Kuo's light novel series Liar Liar is getting an anime adaptation. The Academy Cross Mind Game Cross Romantic Comedy is set on Academy Island where, get this, students battle to determine their rankings.
Such an awful idea.
I know. Can't wait to see where that goes.
I've never heard of this.
Yeah, it's just...
Wow.
Yeah, blows my mind. The YouTube channel for the popular Otome app game Obey Me, I repeat that, an Otome app game named Obey Me, confirmed on Friday an anime project is in the works, set to release in the summer. The story follows a human protagonist who's selected to become an exchange student at a school for demons, and the, of course, 7 hot demon brothers that they meet there. We mentioned an Otome game, again, named Obey Me. The YouTube channel is streaming a 4-minute special episode to commemorate the announcement, so you can check that out. The Black Clover...
Obey Me,
yes,
check it out.
Exactly. The Black Clover anime series aired its final episode this week, but fans still have more to look forward to. Weekly Shonen Jump revealed on Monday that an anime film is in the works for the series, with details to be released at a later date. I wonder why they would decide to make a movie of a popular shonen franchise.
It's not like anything like that happened before. No, not at all. It's no way that it'll break any records or anything like that. No.
I'm sure they're not hoping for it or anything like that.
Yeah, no. Of course.
Speaking of more stuff from anime, 3 of the season's anime series announced upcoming special episodes this week. Episode 75 of the final Attack on Titan series revealed this week The anime will have an episode 76 titled Sentencing, airing sometime
Dun-dun.
this coming winter on NHK and winter 2022 on Funimation. Cloverworks' original Wonder Egg Priority also announced a special edition broadcast happening on June 29th. This will be a continuation of the anime's final episode from this week and will serve as the story's official ending. And lastly, Heaven's design team also received a bonus episode, which began streaming this week on Amazon Prime Video in Japan. In the episode, the design team is asked to come up with 5 new animal designs and then try to combine them all into one animal, which I can only assume is a duckbill platypus. Moving on, anime production company Production IG of Ghost in the Shell fame launched a new character project this week titled Ojigen Idol, or Zero Dimensional Idol. The project will be co-produced with Tokyo content producing company Noah and plans to offer a wide range of content, including voice dramas, songs, and live events. Imagine that. The project features 3 units of male idols who are secretly from the Zero Dimension and can only come back to life in this world by becoming, guess what? Top idols. Again, don't know where they come up with these ideas. So original.
It's you know, the well has not gone dry.
No, clearly not. No. And it won't anytime soon, I am sure. Oh, yeah. So that's the news for the week. Thanks for watching. See you all next week. Yeah. So the question is it back? Yeah, it is. Mine's back. Oh, well. And man, I'm not sure about Black Clover's popularity. Every time I think Black Clover isn't popular, people tell me it's popular. Every time I think it's popular, people tell me, oh no, it's died. I can never get a good feel on that.
All I know is that it just seems to go on forever.
Yeah.
I just feel like that's been around for too long. I don't know. But I don't think it's a matter of what people think if it's popular or not. I think it's just been around for so long.
Yeah.
Or it feels like it's been around for so long, I should say, that I think that people are just used to it. So making a movie out of it is probably the next, next step.
Black Clover began in 2017.
Huh.
So it's been a few years. But yeah, it seems to kind of come in and out. I know the first episode didn't get a huge number of fans, but after the first few episodes, it kind of found its feet and found its fandom. And then it's just been chugging along ever since. There are, let's see here, 28 volumes of the manga, and over 170 episodes of the anime TV series. Plus, of course, spin-offs and everything else like that.
Yeah.
But as Vin points out, all roads lead to Saint Seiya. So, that's it.
I'm sorry, the only episode I ever saw of Saint Seiya is the stairwell episode, where they just keep going up and up the stairs, and it's just like the stairs never end. And I'm like thinking to myself, going, if that was my life, having to battle upstairs, I would just go, win, and I go back down and make myself a sandwich, because there's just no point to that.
Yeah, an infinite number of freezes just does not sound like much fun to me.
No.
Yeah. It's funny. It's like Ronin Warriors. Every time I catch Ronin Warriors on TV, it would be some episode in the middle of a plot line where there's some big bad guy they're trying to defeat or something. I was like, I don't know what's going on. I can't get into this. I feel like I would enjoy this show if I could find the right episode to start with, but it's just oh well.
But for all we know, Black Clover could be the next Mugen Train.
Well,
so,
let's not forget, nobody, 2 years ago was thinking, oh yeah, Demon Slayer is going to be the next hot thing, right? It was a popular, successful shonen. It was fine. It came out, people, liked it. It had heat behind it, but Mugen Train came out of nowhere. That was, oh, man. Yeah, it's interesting. But speaking of Saint Seiya, it would be interesting actually to do, and I'm not the person to do it, to do kind of a um, family tree of shonen series, like the shonen battle series, because
Ooh,
it is true that
yeah,
Saint Seiya is kind of the originator of a lot of the tropes and a lot of the kind of concepts behind
yeah.
things. I mean, a lot of roads lead back to Dragon Ball too, but that's it's almost more just because Dragon Ball was again stupid popular. I don't mean that negatively. Just folks were like, "This okay? This every kid watches Dragon Ball. Fine." Yeah.
Kame. 10 episodes later.
Yeah. And so everyone was like, "All right, let's do that. That's whatever they did. People must like that." It's very very odd. And then going back to like all the sports manga of the '70s and the whole, you can win if you have the right spirit behind you, and you just have to have the right heart and the will, and you'll succeed. Which is like that's how the world works. Yep.
If only.
there's a sketch comedy show, that Mitchell and Webb look, a British show, and there's a sketch where a guy's interviewing a woman who just came off one of these top talent programs, and she's just lost, and he goes, "So how did that go?" And she said, "Well, I just gave it my all, and I just gave 110%, and I know if I just came in and I gave my everything, it would just work out, and I know this may have not worked out, but I just gave it everything." And he goes, "But did you really? What if you just like practiced? Like, what if you like worked at your craft instead of just like hoping it would work out?" "Well, I just gave it my all and gave it everything, and I know that's I just need to give it my all." Yeah, maybe not.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Because if I was successful at that because that's what I did, I'd probably not be where I'm at right now.
Well, I think we talked about this before. People want to be successful like Katy Perry, and it's like you want to guess how many days of the year Katy Perry is on the road.
Right.
That is not an easy life. Moment of silence for Vin's iced tea. And man, Dr. Stone, you're right. That's another one that got a bunch of steam behind it. That steam seems to have kind of dissipated. And it just seems to have kind of faded away. I mean, there's a new season, which people seem to be excited about, with Stone Wars. But I don't know.
I'm waiting for Space Dandy to be the next big thing.
Well, that's the interesting thing. So I suspect one of the reasons Demon Slayer was popular is because we hadn't had a historical samurai shonen series in a while, right? Things are more fantastical, they're more whatever. People kind of like going back to a kind of Edo era, samurai thing. And obviously, there's supernatural vampires and such. So if that's been satiated now, like, what do people want next, right?
Right.
If we're assuming that fantasy stuff is fine, but is not going to be the hot new thing, like, what does shonen fans want now? Science fiction, maybe?
Maybe. Ooh, Dune, the anime.
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah. Leader the Second and Alia. I'm sorry, Leader the Second and
Alia the Ninth. Yeah.
No, Alia's Paul's sister, right?
Yes, that's right.
Leto
is his son.
With
Leto the Second is his son.
Leto, and what is his sister's name? No. Ganima.
Ganima. That's
I know I couldn't remember that name because it's not off the tongue. Yeah, so basically their story, as little kids going off and fighting Sardaukar. I'll go with that. And I just realized I did not connect with this. Do you know who played Leto II in the Children of Dune miniseries?
No.
James McAvoy.
Really?
Yeah, that was James McAvoy. Professor X
Wow.
was Leto II.
Wow.
I
God.
just went to the Wikipedia.
And now, where's my walker? I feel old now.
So, just to do one more little Dune thing, because I know that's what everyone tunes in for. In the Dune universe, Leto and Ganima are both children of the Emperor of the Universe, who has changed his body chemistry through the use of this magical spice. So they're different, right? They have abilities. They're very they're kind of mutants, and they can almost think telepathically, kind of in that twin way, where they're kind of on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
In the miniseries, there's a brilliant scene to get that across, where because they obviously it's a miniseries, it's live action, you can't have all the inner dialogue, and so there's a scene with everyone else going on. The two of them sit down and they start playing chess with each other, and he moves and she moves and he moves and she moves and he moves and she moves and they're going clack, 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 and they start laughing as they're doing that, and then I think she wins and goes and they are moving at such a fast pace because they can kind of see where they're going, and it doesn't matter. Like they don't care to win because this is just play for them, right? And it was just a perfect way of getting across. Like they're creepy. Like that's not normal. Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think science fiction is probably the next shonen thing. I mean,
that.
it's we've done sports, fantasy.
Sports might have a comeback.
Yeah.
We might get a really over the top kind of sports shonen series too.
Yeah.
It's interesting actually now that I think about it. A lot of the sports stuff recently haven't been all that. Well, no, I mean Haikyuu is very shonen-y. I don't know. Because a lot of the sports recently have been that I'm thinking of are either female dominated or mixed or whatever, and so which I enjoy. It's just not shonen, right?
Right.
So I don't know. But yeah, shonen is a thing.
Highlander. That's what it needs to be.
Well, we already have a Highlander anime.
Oh crap! Forgot about that.
The Search for Vengeance. Oops, sorry. Which that's a thing that existed. So that is definitely a show. Let me real quick, since you're talking about what things might be, let me talk about something I like. Which Steve, you may have seen this. We'll see.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Well, if you watch the Sci-Fi Channel at a time, you certainly would know this. Let me see if I can get to a good spot. And make sure there we go. Perfect. Welcome to Brent's Anime Recommendation Corner, where I talk about anime that I love, and I love Iria Zerum the animation. This is a weird anime. And I say that not in the sense of plot, not in the sense of characters. It is set in a unique science fiction universe. And when I say unique, I do not say that word lightly. I'm a science fiction fan. This is what this world looks like. It is very, very distinctive and unusual. The whole approach to the way houses look, the way buildings look, technology, everything about this is very alien in a wonderful way. Nothing is quite like what we're used to seeing. And it focuses on this girl named Iria, whose brother is a bounty hunter. And without getting into too much detail, so you can get a better shot of there she is. Without getting into too much detail, let's say things happen. And she's drawn into a big plot line involving a rather nasty character, which I think I can show you here in a little bit. Up there we go, Zerum. We'll see if we can get you a shot of Zerum here. That is part of Zerum. Hard to get a good shot because he's not around, like very easy to see early on in the story. It was basically a giant biological weapon. Think kind of, Alien from Alien. And is one of the creepier things I've come across. Giant hulking man thing with various detachable pieces. And what I love about Iria is that it's basically an action adventure story. Iria comes across this thing, she has to stop it, and it's her trying to stop it, and that's the plot, really. But then stuff happens, right? And there's all sorts of stuff that they're trying to deal with in stopping this thing, and it's really, really cool. It's again set in a world where there are all these little rules, all these little things going on. Those little beads on Iria's hair have meaning. They're there for something. You don't know what all of those are there for, but you see in just little mentions of things that, these are part of their culture. It's science fiction. Yeah, they go into space, but they don't have like booster rockets or things like that. It's all very different technology. One of the reasons this is so unusual is that it's actually a spin-off of a live-action movie made by a kind of famous Japanese live-action filmmaker where Iria and Zerum crash land on Earth, and two human guys get sucked up in that and have to fight off Zerum. And there's these cool action sequences with Iria and Zerum and so forth. And so this is basically a prequel to that, set in their kind of science fiction alien world, which is really neat. Iria is just a lot of fun. Again, very 90s, obviously. Very, a lot going on in terms of like visuals and plot and so forth, and just wildly inventive. 4-episode OVA, that was all that was ever made anime-wise. Again, you can go back and watch the live-action movies if you want more context there. But it's a really fun action-adventure-y science fiction thing. A lot of fun. And that's Iria Zerum, the animation.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
You haven't seen it? Cool.
I don't think so.
We will have to fix that at some point.
Check that out.
It's yeah, it is very much its own, universe, its own thing. It's really, really cool. Just fun seeing something, that inventive, that off. Yeah, and it was on heavy rotation on Sci-Fi Channel back in the day. Fairly heavy.
So as you were, clicking through the pictures pretty quickly, I saw some of the pictures of some of the people in there. For some reason, I was just like, DNA squared? That kind of reminds me a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit of the character design. Definitely not the story. Doesn't sound like.
No.
By the way, folks, it's the world's greatest animated DNA squared. He said very sarcastically. It's
just, and it's tough because Iria is kind of that classic Saturday afternoon adventure story, where it's action happening, fun characters, things getting thrown at you, constantly, and here's a twist of, this bad guy shows up again kind of thing. It's not particularly complicated in the sense of, you're not going to rethink your views of the world. But what is there is just a fun ride, So
as long as it doesn't end with a slow clap.
No, it does not do that. It does not do that. I will actually give Iria this too. It gives you the end. Like it at the end, you're like, thank you, satisfied with that ending. Like you gave me the ending, so it's good. And man, do I want to see a Spy Family anime. Oh, that is so fun. Spy X Family, that needs to be. That needs to happen. Be a good summer anime too. Spies, James Bond kind of thing.
So how far along are you in that story?
3 volumes, I think.
3 volumes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And they keep adding new twists. We have the Data Dog now, So they have a psychic dog in the family, because why not? And yeah, the family's definitely evolved too as people. So they've kind of pulled together as a family, and they're kind of understanding each other better, and they have more goals now for their relationships and kind of getting to know each other and such, which is yeah. Oh, that would just be a perfect 26 episode anime series. Yeah, it's asking for, and that's the other thing is like it reading it, you're like, these are basically storyboards for anime series. Like that's clearly where they're going with this.
So someday, if we see the anime of this, where we'll see it'll all be Japanese names and stuff in the credits, and then we'll see your name and then producer,
Yeah, exactly.
and then it's just like I
do it.
couldn't wait. I had to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I should probably, boy. Yeah, I'll hire some folks to do like a test film, like a 30-second test film, and then hand that over to people and say, here, just make it like this, like just do this, give me a minute, I'm fine. That's all I asked for. That'd be funny. I wonder what the legality of that would be. Like, I wonder how close you could get to an existing thing, and not call it Spy X Family, obviously, but do the same idea.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be kind of fun to make something that is shades of. Don't know.
Well, you could just go ahead, figure out what the rest of the story is, take the text down, put it online,
throw ads on it.
Well, throw ads on it, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good question. And see, there's a thing. Like there's actually a fair amount of. I wouldn't call it plot. Well, there's plot in Spy X Family. There's a. Okay. The little girl in the family has basically spent her entire life focusing on hiding her ability. Once she gets into this family, she realizes, oh, I can actually use this ability. I can own this ability and use it for good. And so a lot of the plot, as of halfway through volume 2, I think, is starting to explore that of now she can start growing as a person, right? And start figuring out how to use that. And the other characters are obviously don't know her power, but they're helping her understand how to be a good person, so to speak. So I think that's where it has legs to tell a longer form story,
right?
As opposed to just being sort of random, funny episodes with the characters. But I don't know, and I don't know, what there's if they could drag that out for 20 volumes, who knows? Don't know. But then Trigun got an anime adaptation when they were, he was not very far into the manga there, so it doesn't mean that they have to, they have to wait. Who knows?
Yeah. Or they could do what they did with Full Metal Alchemist. Just do a totally different storyline than the manga, and then turn around and go, "Hey, that was popular. Let's do this again. Let's ride this coaster again."
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's cool, Jay. That sounds like fun too. Trapped in a dating sim, the world of otome games is tough for mobs. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, certainly no shortage of light novel adaptations, or light novels right for adaptations out there. I'm still holding out hope for the Alchemist Who Survived, because I love that. Let's talk about the history. Things happen.
History, yes.
In anime history. Welcome to This Week in Anime History, where I talk about things that happened this week in anime history, starting back in 1970. The first episode of Ashita no Joe, a.k.a. Tomorrow's Joe, premiered in Japan. Yeah. The famous boxing manga and anime. This is the one which, and I tell this story every year, not long before the anime adaptation came out, one of the characters in the manga had passed away, which led to a public funeral for the character on the streets of Tokyo. That's how popular it was. So yeah, Ashita no Joe, big deal. Very successful, very popular, and became the pattern for a lot of the sports anime that came afterwards. Moving forward quite a bit to 1997, a certain anime named Pokemon aired in Japan. The first
Pokemon?
time, exactly. Can you believe 1997, almost 25 years ago, the original Ash, Misty, and Brock Pokemon anime series aired in Japan. It did pretty well. A day later, saw the premiere of Revolutionary Girl Utena, the now well-known kind of shoujo manga rethink, really weird kind of anime series. It's amazing and a lot going on there. Aired the same season as Pokemon. Really, really cool. Jumping forward about a decade, on April 2nd as well, saw the premiere of The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, which was a pretty big deal when it came out. Very, very popular. The light novels had been fairly successful, but boy, this blew those just kind of out of the water and was arguably the first really, really big Kyoto Animation anime series. They'd done stuff before that. They'd worked on Full Metal Panic and so forth, but this was kind of the show they blew up with. Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, leading to obviously the second season and the movies and so forth and so on. And then jumping forward, a few years after that, can you believe it? 9 years ago, Toonami returned to Cartoon Network with Tom jumping back in the saddle. Very happy day for a lot of us old school Toonami and anime fans. We got Toonami back on April Fools and turned into a real thing, which is really cool.
Yep.
That is This Week in Anime History. See you next time.
I really liked Tomorrow Joe. That was one I really liked, and I didn't. And you know what's funny is what got me into it was the funeral.
Really,
I read about it in one of my books. I was just like, really, okay. And so of course went to the library, picked it up, and started reading it. And it was actually really kind of good. I mean, it was really. I think what it was is that it was just a different. To me, it was a different storyline from what I was reading.
Sure.
Not just a sports storyline, but just kind of like the, almost like Rocky Balboa with the manga.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting. Everyone I've come across who's seen Tomorrow's Joe, Joe is like, yeah, I couldn't stop watching. Like once I got into it, I was in. It hooked me.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
And then of course we watched the Ping Pong Club. One of the characters, Styles, is here, just like.
Nice. There we go.
That classic, such wholesome anime.
Not exactly. So yeah, that's that. That is what I like. That is history. So I do have a question though.
What did we learn on the show tonight, Brent?
Perfect.
All right, pitch perfect. You need to go on the road.
Absolutely.
With tone deaf otakus.
I learned it's never too late for shonen. Shonen can always come back. I learned I should not be releasing 60 volumes of manga online that haven't been released yet. Apparently that I shouldn't be doing that, turns out. What else? I also learned that there's always more anime. Which I seem to learn every week.
Oh, what did I learn? And do I ever learn? And how can I apply this knowledge? Anyway, So yes, there is always anime. I'm just here in the chat land saying, "Oh my god, I'm gonna have to check this out, check this out, check this out." There's a lot of stuff out there. And just when I learned, just when you think you not know every anime or anything
Sure.
like that or anything stretch the imagination, someone comes up and says, "Here's this," and you just go, what?" Onto the list it goes. Yeah. Here's the list. So Iria is on the list.
There we go.
There we go. I have learned that Patlabor is still a love of mine, as far as all over the map it can be, and it's one of my favorite. If I can't have, I'll be honest, if I can't have the Gundam out of Tokyo, if someone can build me an Alphonse,
Sure.
I'll be happy.
Yeah. Take an Alphonse.
Yeah. And the last thing I learned, which is not exactly anime related, but never try to do, if you for those of you who have a YouTube channel out there in Chatland, never try to do more than 2 episodes of your channel in a day after working 5 days, throwing cases of beer around, and you're exhausted, because you're going to look like you're going to alternate between being tired and then manic, and you replay the video, it's just watching yourself screaming at a camera and then falling asleep. It's a horrible way of life. So just take your time. Just take your time. That's why I love this movie.
Fair enough. I'm laughing because I've been there. And Jay is right. I've also learned we need to Spy X Family anime. We need that. Like it's the time for that. Cool. Thank you all so much. As always, it's been a blast. Have a great rest of the week. Live streaming nothing but sleeping. It would probably make money. Hope you all have a great week. See you in a week for Summer Wars.
Summer Wars.